Gotta get a little smoke out of here today. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Mad Max, back at it again. Had the marathon session with Bill Patrick last night. Got another guy that knows a little bit about Kronicals of the Asylum as he's loading up the pen right now, it looks like. We've got Raven Havoc joining us. Raven going to make his first trip up to the Hoosier State. Raven, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem, man.
I got to say, lately it's been so much easier to get guys to agree to come on. And Raven, I actually was sitting in my daughter's or my son's little ninja class. They do like a Ninja Warrior class. And I'm like, I'm just going to send this guy a message, and I'm sure he's going to text Gary, and it'll be 3 weeks before I hear back from this guy, and it'll be too late. And within 5 minutes, he doesn't even verify anything. He's just like, yeah, I'm down. So super cool dude, and already a favorite of mine just because he's easy to set stuff up with. So, and then I went on, I've been hearing your name for a long time. I said last summer, I think you had the best kind of story going on in deathmatch wrestling between you and Kid Osborne. So you've kind of been on the radar for a while. And then with the stuff you did with Raver and he handed you the mask and you buying the stuff at the auction and stuff, everything was, you've always kind of been on the radar as one of those up and comers. And now we're going to get to bring you into the Hoosier State. And man, Gary, and as I started coining last night, I promptly placed myself on the booking committee because it went so good in Jim Crockett Promotions that we need to have the booking committee in AWR. So, the booking committee has given you a hell of a rough test. You got Alex Ocean, and you're no stranger to Alex Ocean. You and Alex were on a 4-way at Total Psychopath Wrestling in Tennessee about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago now. It'll be about 2 months after our show. It'll have been 2 months once our show kicks off. And you won that over Alex, Brad Cash, and J.W. Dalton down there. And you've been on a little bit of a winning streak down there. You got a win over Brad Cash in a singles match, and you've been able to take that strength that you took into Total Psychopath Wrestling. Because to be honest, in H2O and stuff, you were not doing so great out there. You ran into 3 or 4 losses in a row, but that happens in wrestling, right?
That's right, and you got to think that's the big boys, and it's running with the big dogs, and it's tough up there sometimes, but H2O is like a second home, so. I love it up there.
And then you're also involved in an organization out in North Carolina, right?
Hmm?
So that's Unholy Warfare, and you've been doing some stuff over there. Are you guys wrestling currently, or?
No, we're waiting for our band to get lifted where we can do things, and then we've got plenty of plans. We've just got to get to where we can actually run our shows.
Right. So, and that's one thing, and that's going to bring me right into the point I like to drive home a lot, and didn't drive home a whole lot with Dale last night, but it's masks and social distancing, guys. The state of Indiana is being super cool. Our COVID numbers keep going up, but the state is still letting us run shows. They know we're responsible. They know we're smart. We've got to show them that we're not stupid, and we're not like, I was watching a show last weekend on pay-per-view that I'm sure a lot of people watched, and I saw 6 people in masks and no one social distancing. We can't have that in Indianapolis, or they're going to yank our show. We will not get to have October, and trust me, I'm seeing the card laid out for October. We want to have that show. So wear your masks and social distance. Obviously, you can sit next to the person you're in the car with there, but be respectful, everybody. I've got a wife and 4 kids, 3 that live with me. I don't know about Raven's situation, but I also have a full-time job, and I can't get sick and miss 2 weeks of work because someone doesn't want to wear a mask.
I got a stepson and one on the way.
So, yeah, and especially with the baby coming, he definitely needs to stay safe. So while we can't wear masks to do our jobs, when you're sitting there enjoying what all of us do, put that mask on, social distance. And that being said, September to Remember is going to be a huge freaking show. You're coming in off a really good run down there in Tennessee, and Gary decided, hey, let's bring this guy up here and see what he can do against our big dogs. And you're seeing Alex Ocean, like we said, you saw him about 8 weeks ago. And you won there. And Alex is coming off a loss to a guy that's, we'll talk about later in the number one contender eliminator match, in a title eliminator match, in Justin Kyle, the freaking bull mastiff, the scariest man walking the planet. And we're going to break some news on Justin Kyle's opponent here too. So, you've got and Alex Ocean's going to be dangerous. And Alex Ocean coming off a couple of losses. How do you look into that? Talk me through your game plan. What are you planning to do?
Well, knowing Ocean, which I've wanted to get in with him for a long time, ever since Zach Monstar brought him in Florida and I watched their match. I was like, yeah, I've got to figure out a way to get in with Ocean. And then we found out in Tennessee I was wrestling Ocean. And in Tennessee, I found out Ocean hates one thing more than anything, and that would be these sons of bitches. So, in my favor, it's gusset plates.
And it is a gusset plates fuckery match. I'm much more excited about this than the barbed wire match because I still have scars on my arm from helping Chuck Stein set the barbed wire up last month. Anybody that thinks this shit's gimmicked, you're fucking high. I can tell you that I bled all over the t-shirt last week. And he didn't get that scar from, standing too close to a belt grinder at work. That's a wrestling scar right there. So, yeah, let's kind of run through the card. There's going to be some names on here you definitely know. Feel free to chime in, and then we'll kind of come back to your guys' match and kind of walk through it, game plan it. Again, so we're at the Emerson Theater for September. Remember, it's going to be September 26th. The Emerson Theater is super easy to find. It's a historic downtown Indy. The building is really, really cool. It's been around since the Prohibition days. When Gary and the guys want to do any work to that building, to even take a wall out or something, they have to apply with the historical district. So we get to be in a really neat old building. Where the locker room is the old VIP lounge. And you got to think about some of the jazz guys and stuff that were probably relaxing up there one day. It's probably pretty cool.
Nice, that's exciting.
And then we're up there hitting dabs. So, whatever. But yeah, so tickets, $10 general admission, $20 VIP. I count on this card just looking at it. There's 7 guys that you're going to start paying $40 or $50 in a year to a year and a half to see. So for $10 to get in to see these guys is quite the deal. And remember, this is our first attempt at a Saturday, due to a lot of pushing by me that it's way too hard for me to leave Indianapolis at 11 o'clock at night or 12 o'clock at night, drive back to Northwest Indiana and be at work at 7 a.m. So yeah, the 3 hours of sleep, fighting kids to put them on a school bus, and then work meetings was brutal. So we're gonna try Saturdays. I'm sorry about the strobe light going on in my office here tonight. I don't really know what's going on, but gotta love the power grid up here in the Chicagoland area. They got 3 gerbils in there running, I think. But yeah, we've already talked about Raven Havoc and Alex Ocean in that gusset fuckery match. Then we've got Dale Patricks and Chewy Martinez, which, I mean, Chewy's a fucking legend. The fact that he's going to be in Indianapolis is amazing. He's one of those guys on my list of people I wanted to check out and see wrestle. He's on that list of, there's 10 or 15 deathmatch guys on there, and it's Chewy's. I get to cross the name off the list. Do you have any encounters with Dale or Chewy that you've been in? Or
I haven't met Chewy. I've talked to him, but never been able to actually meet him. Dale, I met Dale and Josh finally late last year in December. I think it was December. We were going to Kentucky to meet up with a guy that's doing my documentary, and there was a show about an hour away, and we just said fuck it and went, and they happened to be there.
That's
so
awesome.
That was my first meeting of them.
Yeah, and they're super cool dudes, and I mean, you got Josh Crane's on the show, and he's got Akira. Josh is he's a dragon, and for those of us around here, especially that grew up my age, that grew up watching Scotty Vortex over in CZW, and that was kind of your first exposure. Josh's instructor at school was Scotty Vortex, so Josh is going to bring it against Akira, and Akira is insane. And that's the number one contender match. What Gary has decided, we're not going to award Akira the title just because Drew Skill's dropping the belt. No. What we're going to do is we're going to have basically title eliminators, similar to what the UFC does. And we'll we've got 4 guys in here. 2 guys we're bringing in from out of town, and 2 guys that are already around. So we're going to go ahead and break a little news here as well. because we have Justin Kyle and he's got Matthew Justice in the other title eliminator fight. And then whoever wins those 2 matches will come back in October and go for a world title. So that's going to be fucking nuts.
That's a lot of nuts!
Josh Crane's been to Japan 2 or 3 times. Akira's been to Mexico. Justin Kyle is the scariest human being I've ever met. I mean, the dude's traps are bigger than my biceps. So I'm always glad when we interview Justin that it's through Skype and he's several hundred miles away, because I tend to piss the bad guys off and just keep him as far away as I can. And then Matthew Justice is nuts. Do you have any run-ins with Matthew?
Off the top of my head, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, but Matthew, kind of got world famous for one of those other companies jumping off of the top of a fucking basketball court gym stuff. Matthew's also insanely good, and another one of those guys that the booking committee has clearly decided that we're not going to just hand the 2 local guys, the 2 guys that have been there, they're not going to get that title. They're not going to get that title shot. They're going to have to earn it and prove it. So I'm very excited about that. And then we also have the first round of our tag team tournament. Now remember, this is just a 2-round tournament. It'll be 4 single or 4 tag team matches in the first round, and then it's going to be all 4 of the winners are going to come back and compete for the title in October. So as you can already see, October's shaking down. We're going to have a tag team title awarded. We're going to award a new heavyweight champ. There's rumors going around, just rumors and innuendo, that there's a secondary title coming in. Something maybe like the old brass knuckles, barbed wire kind of belt, maybe. Because we've got Dale Patricks with no losses. We've got Akira with no losses. We've got John Wayne Murdoch with only losses in Asylum Deathmatch Tournament and 2 Drew Skills. So there's plenty of Charlie Cruel with no losses. We've got Brent, apparently your cousin Brent Havoc. He's got no losses, officially 1 match, and just never signed his contract for his 3 losses. But we'll not get into that because I'm sure Brent's bullhorn will be in my ears in the locker room come September 26th. So, yeah, he's Brent's an acquired taste that I haven't acquired yet, for sure. The guy can wrestle, but golly, is he mouthy. But he's a good wrestler, so you got to take the good with the bad. But yeah, in the tag tournament, we've got Shooters Don't Die versus West Company, and then we've got Original Sin, DTA, Capital Vice, Over the Top, The Tribunal, and Hustle and Muscle. Stay tuned to Facebook as Gary will release the rest of the pairings coming out in the coming weeks. But let's kind of circle back to what I consider my backyard, definitely what your backyard is, and that's the deathmatch stuff. We've got 2, 4, 6. I would consider Matthew Justice a deathmatch guy. 7 really good deathmatch / hardcore wrestlers on this card. So let's kind of talk about you said the game plan is gusset plates, but Alex Ocean's a flyer. What do you do to ground that? How do you keep him from climbing something in our building and jumping off of it?
Stick a gusset plate in the back of his leg.
Okay, I guess that'll pretty much clip those wings pretty quick. How do you see this match going? Do you see, it's obviously going to be a death match. Hopefully there's going to be some light tubes. There's going to be some shenanigans going around, but there's going to be gusset plates everywhere. It's a gusset plate fuckery match, and Gary's going to make a couple trips to the Home Depot, I'm sure. So how do you see, Alex is not a gusset plate fan. You've already said that, and Alex has made no bones about admitting that as well. You're kind of welcoming him to your world. I need to not smoke before I come on because big words get rough. So how do you bring someone into your world? How are you going to make him? You got to ground him. And Alex is, and this is no slight to you. Alex is a little bit bigger, probably a little bit stronger than you. So you're going to have to wear him down a little bit. So talk about that.
I don't know, man. We had a blast in Tennessee, so I see this being extremely violent. I see it extremely bloody. It's just, I don't know. We fit good in the ring. I don't, as much as we talk and stuff, we're just gonna go right at it.
Like 2 big old bulls, right?
Yeah, and probably shake hands at the end of it, but just go to fucking war.
Right. So that's going to be insane. So Obviously, you see Alex counting lights before the end of the night, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah. And is there, aside from sticking a gusset plate in his leg, is there a way that you can prepare mentally or physically for a match against a guy that you know is going to bring that high flying? I mean, the guy doesn't think he can die. He's broke his neck and continued to wrestle. What do you have to do to end a guy like that to stop him to take him out of the equation?
Kick him really hard in the face.
I like that. I like that a lot. Um, and I think this has the potential to be one of the most violent matches we've seen in AWR in a very long time. I think there's the chance for there to be a lot of blood. Both of these guys are pretty scarred up already, and we all know that scar tissue likes to dump buckets out. So if you want to see two warriors that we don't get to see here in Indiana very often, we're talking to Raven, who's from North Carolina, Alex is from Florida, and I firmly believe both of these guys will be on to the next level in the next 12 to 18 months, and it's going to become a lot more expensive to see these guys. So
and that far, we may as well make it really good.
Yeah, if when guys have to jump in airplanes or drive 9 hours to get to a show, you can pretty much be sure that they're going to kill each other, and then hug each other in the back and smoke out together afterwards. So it'll be a good time. So then we've got Dale Patrick's undefeated in AWR, and he lost in that deathmatch tournament in Connorsville a couple weeks ago. But aside from that, can't really think of a loss that Dale's taken in a long time. And he's got Chewy. That's going to be a bloody war. And then we've got Akura, Josh Crane, and Matthew Justice. Those are 5 big deathmatch names right there. And then we've also got John Wayne Murdoch. We've got Reed Bentley, who's been around. We've got Aiden Blackheart. We've got Neil Cutter. I'm hearing some names of some other guys mentioned that I think Gary would kill me if I said on here, so we're not. But our deathmatch group is deep and sturdy. Where do you see yourself sliding in? Let's say there's 10 names there. Where do you kind of put yourself in that top 10 of the deathmatch guys here at AWR?
Well, the problem is I don't see myself as anybody. I'm just a guy that loves to do this shit and enjoys it more than I really should. So I just like being there. The fact that, when I go to Jersey and I'm freaking the fuck out because I'm about to go out there on IWTV or Fight, and like Low Life Louie grabs me by the shoulder and he's like, "Kid, you're in the same locker room as me. It's okay. Like, you're one of us now." And that's just one of those things, man. I don't
It's
see myself.
A mark out moment, right?
Yeah, it's just one of those cool things. And like, I'm thanking Stockade because he's been there since the beginning for me. And he's like, "Just calm down, kid. You're supposed to be here." And
right.
I don't know. And it's always been my goal and dream was to travel and do this. And it finally happened.
That's awesome. I'm glad that AWR is able to help you out in that. And now that you got the politically correct answer out of the way, we got a top 10 here. We got a belt coming in that way. How many? Let's say you go over Alex. We've got Dale. We've got Akira. We got Josh. We've got those other guys that I talked about. How many matches do you think? How many wins do you need before you can kind of consider yourself a viable contender to that secondary belt that we're gonna have, that deathmatch style belt?
I don't know. I'm gonna do my damnedest to beat Ocean, but if I beat Ocean, I think that's pretty good. If I beat Murdoch, I'll count that as pretty good, and if I can beat Akira,
so
even I don't even. It's just there to do it and have fun.
Right. So that's kind of, and I think that's a pretty good stepping order. You're gonna have to get through Ocean first, and then, not that Murdoch's a gatekeeper for anybody, but definitely Murdoch and Akira are on pretty much the same level, and I think there's the potential that those two could end up squaring off at some point to kind of and they have a million times, but to determine that lineage there. And then, I think whoever comes out of it, I think we've got a great mix of deathmatch guys right now, a bunch of guys that can tell a lot of different stories, and a bunch of guys that are not scared to walk up the steps back into the locker room completely covered in their own and someone else's blood. So as far as that goes for death matches, that's pretty awesome. Now, do you only work death matches, or will you work strong style and stuff?
I try to stick to deathmatch because that's where I have a lot more fun, and that's what I wanted to become, was a deathmatch wrestler.
Sure.
But There's a company here in North Carolina called HCWA, and that's like where I got my start, and that's my home base, home promotion. And I've done some deathmatch stuff there, but that's mainly wrestling.
Sure. All right, and so again, like we covered, this is your first trip up here to the Hoosier State. Tell fans that don't know a lot about Raven Havoc. This is going to be a guy, aside from guys maybe seeing some GIFs or short videos on Facebook. This is going to be a lot of times, or a lot of people's first time seeing you. What can they expect to see in a Raven Havoc match?
Gusset plates.
Now, I heard anybody that grows up in the old Jim Crockett territory can chop like a motherfucker. Is that true?
Yeah.
So how far are you? So you're in North Carolina. How far are you from Charlotte?
Hour and a half on a bad day.
So yeah, you're right in the middle of that old, you got to think that what's cool about somebody like you is you're driving up and down the same roads to make the towns that, Magnum TA and Harley Race and Ric Flair and all those guys are driving down. That's got to be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Are you a fan of the old school wrestling, or are you mostly like 2000 and beyond? I don't know how old you are, so.
I'll be 30 in November.
Okay.
So
around my age.
I discovered wrestling on WWE in like 2002. Like John Cena debuting was like my first or second match I ever watched. So
I was already done with wrestling by when John Cena showed up, or done with WWE. I discovered Scotty Vortex and a bunch of guys in fields in Delaware bleed all over each other. I'm like, fuck that stuff.
That was all I had seen, so that's all I knew at the moment. And then a buddy of mine, Justin Zane, who I tagged with forever, invited me to TOD 10. And I was like, is this anything like WWE? And he goes, oh boy, you in for a treat. And ironically, the first person I ever met was Danny Havoc. And that was my first exposure to that stuff. And then since then, it was like, yeah, this is what I want to get to.
Right. It's interesting we kind of share, because my first exposure ever to deathmatch wrestling was watching G4. I think it was G4. It might have been Tech TV at the time. They had a show called, I think it was called Attack of the Show or something, and they did like a 15-minute interview, like almost like a true life segment on Danny. And it shows him like leaving and going to New Jersey and doing the match. And I remember the first time I saw it, I'm like, this is too violent for me. I don't take this shit. And then I'm like, all right, what was the name of that company? Combat Zone. All right, now I gotta YouTube this shit. And then I'm like, yeah, I dig this. I definitely do dig this. So it's cool that we kind of share. I think if you talk to a lot of deathmatch fans, Danny ends up being that person that brought them in. When a guy's art.
I searched DW and found like Nick Mondo, and I was like, this is fucking awesome. But it was like, there's no way I could do that. And then I get there and I watch TOD 10 and I'm like, oh no, this is where I want to be.
Were you already in wrestling school then? Were you already wrestling then, or?
No, I did probably about 6 months to a year. I would have probably been training.
And where'd you train at?
HCWA.
And who's the trainer out there? Is it any of the old Crockett guys out there, or?
Oh no, just some local dudes that have been doing this shit forever. And if you won't know, but if you say it North Carolina, everybody knows who he is. And then Rob McBride.
Yeah, I was hoping maybe it was one of the old, like, because I love to sit down and watch the network and watch like 1987 Jim Crockett Promotions wrestling. I think that stuff's so much. The stories I'm into the stories, obviously being a videocast guy. And I was hoping you'd be like, oh, it was this guy, and it's like, oh, that was a jobber for JCP in 1984. That'd be awesome.
Just some local guys. It was a lot of like on the job training, and I'm still learning. And that's because in North Carolina, we do things so much differently than like in Jersey or Florida or probably you guys up there. So it's on the job training right now, and it's still learning, and it's still growing, and it's still figuring out how things work differently in different places.
Are you from pretty close to where the Hardys are from then?
They're about to Cameron, I think, is like 2 hours.
Okay. Because your accent's similar to theirs. So, and I know North Carolina's got like 3 accents depending on where you're at in the state. Because you get the Appalachian people that I don't think anyone can understand.
It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I listened to. I don't know if you've ever heard of that podcast. It's called Between the Sheets. Bo James is on there a lot. From Kingsport, Tennessee, and Bo doesn't have much of an accent at all. But then he'll be talking about they'll play stuff from that area and like, shh, I don't think these people are speaking English.
No,
And then like that
biggest
Raleigh Durham area, they sound different.
I'm just a walking contradiction. I'm a country goth because if you get me fired up, my country really comes out.
Right.
And I hunt and I fish, but this is me.
Right. I always said I'm an emo hillbilly, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I like to drag race and shit, but then I'll also listen to Newfound Glory and shit. So it's not quite but I could also listen to a Garth Brooks CD and be just as happy. So I'm like, I'm the a little bit of an emo hillbilly, and I guess that's okay. There was at one point that I had black toenails. Not real proud of that. Less proud of that was my father, who would have preferred to not happen. But yeah, I get the country goth too. I get that.
If it makes it any worse, my first concert I ever went to as a child was Vince Gill and LeAnn Rimes.
That's probably a pretty dope ass show, though. If we're gonna be honest, yeah, those are both pretty good performers. I think my first concert I ever went to, this is gonna age me a little bit, was Ricochet, the country band, who had 2 songs in 1984 or 1994, and then the second one was Weird Al Yankovic. We'll talk about that. And that was long before I discovered marijuana, so that was just going in. Now it'd probably be pretty cool. But yeah, I totally get the. I always said it's kind of you can't shake where you grow up and how you grow up. It's still going to be in your roots. Like I could tell you right now on my phone, I've got Farmer City's dirt track race playing on my phone and kind of glancing at that every now and then. But then I also work a job where I have to wear shirt and tie every day too. So I get it. And I'll listen to Limp Bizkit on the way there, listening to 1999 or something. So yeah, I agree with the walking contradiction.
The girl that I call my sister, that takes the pictures and is doing a bunch of the video stuff for my documentary, was riding with me the other day, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but I was skipping through songs in my car, and I don't know how it went from 6ix9ine to Behemoth to, I think it was like Eric Church or something, and she went, that escalated and changed so quick.
I mean, Eric Church, North Carolina boy, though, so it's got a...
Dude, hell of a show if you ever get to go.
So, okay. All right, got to go on a little story here. So I used to be a DJ in a bar when I was paying for college and stuff. I was a DJ in a bar. Eric Church, we had Jason Aldean on the Hicktown tour. It's when they both had dropped their first CD. So Hicktown came out, Jason Aldean comes, plays for 500 or 600 people. I'm the only DJ at the bar that likes country music at all, so I drew both of those nights. And he basically made $50 and then got tipped out by the bartenders. And a Thursday night country show, you weren't going to make any money at. You might make $100. But I was into country music, and I'm like, yeah, I'll check this out. And Guys Like Me had just come out, and it had kind of, as it was for every country guy, it had kind of become my theme song. Yeah. I'm kind of pumped to get there and meet him, and Brantley Gilbert opened for him, so it was
hell of a show,
dude. Brantley goes out there, no one knew who Brantley, and the best part was the local opener we hired, because our local band canceled, was Bruno Mars. Because Bruno's a Detroit kid, and Detroit to Fort Wayne is a pretty short drive. So we had Bruno open, and he didn't get over as great as you'd think. But Brantley goes out there and plays some of his own stuff, some covers, amazing. Eric goes out there and just fucking melted the place. So afterwards we go, I'm kind of doing you'll see I have a tendency to walk up to a circle of people at the appropriate time and just cut myself into the line, hang out for 4 or 5 minutes, cut myself back out of the line. And maybe I make a half a lap around while John Wayne Murdoch's holding it and telling a story and be like, pass that shit. Anyways, I was doing that, and he goes, dude, we got some stuff out of the bus. Come on. So I immediately put the computer on shuffle and walk out and hang out. And I ended up getting a cell phone number because he was trying to holler at some girls. And he's like, hey, give these girls my number, save it in your phone too, if we're ever back in town. Right. So 2 years later, I'd moved out of that area and moved over here and was working at a fire department at a steel mill. And my wife bought me tickets to see our church in Fort Wayne at the Coliseum. I texted him. I said, "Hey man, we're going to be at the show. I'm sure you don't remember." He's like, "Dude, you were there when I played for 100 people. You're going to come and see us when we play for 10,000." He gave my wife and I beer. We hung out all night. So such a cool dude. Really long-winded story to say that I'll always be, always have that on the YouTube music.
The cool one that I've got was being the country and stuff, but like I'm into metal, especially like horror metal, like Wednesday 13. I don't even know if you knew that is like my god.
Sure.
And he came to Greensboro, which is a 25-minute trip for me. I've seen him twice now. But the first time he came through, he was doing this like big VIP package. And I'm not going to throw out the number that I paid to do it. I'm not ashamed of it because I was supposed to spend, I got like a gift bag with like a bunch of signed stuff. Got to hang out with him for like 30 minutes was the selling point. Nah, they brought me on the bus and I hung out with him for like an hour and 15 minutes.
That's what's up.
And it was amazing.
That's what's up. That's awesome. And speaking of that, guys, at the show for $20, you can get VIP. You get in a half hour early ish. You'll probably end up being in 45 minutes early just because of the way we do doors. And we want to make sure you get a chance to go and hit everybody's tables, get the stuff you want. I get Mountain Dew or iced tea and vodka tonight. So it's coming up a little bit. Yeah. Unsweet. Not like you guys, I'm sure, do 7 pounds of sugar in it, though.
Yeah, we do.
But still, yeah, for $20, you can get in a half hour to 45 minutes early. You'll get a chance to take pictures of all the wrestlers before they're all covered in blood and nasty and sweaty. If you're a picture collector and stuff, it's a much better time. It's the same way at any like concert. Bands don't want you taking pictures after the third song because they're covered in sweat and look gross. And the guys they'll be accommodating, but if you want to make sure you get pictures and stuff, get that VIP for an extra $10. I mean, you've got Raven Havoc, Alex Ocean in from states that are 9 and 15 hours away to drive to. You've got Josh Crane, who's been all over the world. You've got Chuy Martinez. You've got a lot of names on this card that you're not going to have that opportunity to get pictures with for an extra $10. And it's also a chance to make sure, because most of these guys don't bring a million shirts with them. I mean, shirts are expensive to buy, and they're pretty much floating those shirts hoping that they can sell them every week. So if you want to make sure you get the right size and the right shirt design you want, you got to buy that VIP to make sure. I went to go buy a shirt after the show at Rotten to the Core, and both of the guys' shirts I wanted were already sold out, and I could have bought them at 4:00 when they were setting up their merch, but was dumb and didn't.
Time for people to talk to people, and even after the show, that's just one of my big things, especially if it's a new place. I try to get acquainted with people, and I've always got my stuff. And with a baby on the way, I'm not trying to upsell my stuff, but like shit helps.
Guys, and we've hit this before on the show too. These guys don't make as much as you think. I surely don't make as much as I don't. I signed that $100,000 contract, but Gary is not keeping up that $100,000 a month. But every little bit helps. If you enjoy what they do, go buy a T-shirt or toss them. If you don't have the $20 for a T-shirt, but you really enjoy what the guys did, toss them a $5 and say thanks. Buy them a beer, say thank you. All that shit helps.
That's stuff that ranges from $2 to $20. So
there's something there. If you enjoy what they do, it's the same. You would do the same thing with an Uber. Think about it like that. If you get an Uber and the guy gets you there safe and doesn't kill you, you toss him $3 or $4. If these guys go out and literally attempt to murder each other, buy a shirt. If you don't want to buy a shirt, you don't want to buy a sticker, you don't want to buy something, toss them a $5 on the table. Say, hey man, I really appreciate it. Buy them a beer. Buy them. McDonald's is across the street. Run over and get them a milkshake or something. Hook them up, because I can assure you, every one of these guys works a full-time job and they need hooked up. And on that, you have an indie connection as well.
Yes.
What's the link? What can they look for there?
I carry with me my most updated stuff, and I've got to actually go through my stock to see what I've got. But all of my retro shirts, all the way back up to my first shirt, are on my Indie Connection. And if you just go to Google and type in the Indie Connection, it'll pop up, and then you go to the menu and you'll find my name. It's the same site G-Raver's on. Trying to think who else is on there. I can't remember. There's a bunch of guys on there, but like Raver's on there, and you'll see my name. Just click on it, and it's from my first up to not the past 3 shirts I've done.
So yeah, it's another way to take care of these guys and make sure that you can continue to see these guys. Because I'm here to tell you, with the cost of travel and the cost of everything, it's hard to get these guys in from out of town. And a good way we can do that is let them sell some gimmicks at the table. And if you want to make sure you get the sizes and stuff you want, again, that extra 10 for the VIP really helps make sure. So September 26th, September to remember. Doors are going to open at 6. First match at 6:30. General admission tickets are only $10. If you want to buy that general admission ticket and say I'm going to save $10 to, buy a couple beers, whatever, that's cool too. But $20 for the VIP, that gets you in early, gets you a chance to take pictures of all the workers on the show. Put your hands up on the ring. I think last time we had fans in the ring taking pictures and stuff. So Gary and the guys are really good about being really accommodating on what we'll let fans do. But you will have to wear a mask. And it's up to the wrestler or not if you can pop the mask off for the picture and pop it back on, or just keep the mask on, but plan on keeping it on. Again, safety's got to be number one. I know it's weird talking to a guy that's covered in scars and stuff, but talking about safety, but we've got to be safe. We could be in a position like North Carolina's in, where we're not allowed to run shows. And that means I'm here to tell you there will not be as many wrestlers in North Carolina when we come out of COVID as there were when we went in. And we don't want to see our favorites just have to go get a full-time job and kind of give up on wrestling. So support the boys, do that. Big card. I see Sam Mitchell at Hoosier Wrestling Alliance put it on Facebook today. This is a card that you're going to tell your kids about, your grandkids about someday. And it truly is when you start looking at the names on it. Several out-of-towners. And he didn't know that Matthew fucking Justice was coming in to face Justin Kyle. Justin Kyle has told Gary and the rest of us on the booking committee that he wants names. He doesn't want to be fed local guys. He doesn't want enhancement talent to put over, old school WCW Saturday night 605 special. He wants names. He said, bring me the toughest guys from the Indies and I'm going to kill them. And he kind of did that to Alex Ocean. He almost killed Alex Ocean. So, Matthew Justice is going to come in. He's going to have a machine gun wrapped around his waist, and he's going to try and take out the Bull Mastiff. And then we've got Josh Crane and Akira. Josh Crane, the fucking guy that's been to Japan more than anybody else on this card for sure, and an amazing story. Josh has been at several TODs. He's been all over the place. If you're into wrestling at all, Josh Crane's one of the best guys going on the Indies, in my opinion.
Excellent hand.
Yeah. Truly believe that Josh will end up in ROH or Impact and have a 20-year career there, in my opinion. So lots of stuff. And then we got that first round of our tag team tournament. Shooters Don't Die and West Company already announced. More announcements to come, but Original Sin, DTA, Capital Vice, Over the Top, The Tribune, and Hustle and Muscle all on there. Before we take off, I do like to keep the shows under 45 minutes. So we got about 7 or 8 minutes here. We can still riff. Anything else you want to talk about? Obviously it's AWR's podcast, so we're not going to talk about outside stuff, but anything else you want to talk about? Give the fans one last message to send home.
No, I mean, it's like you were going to, and it's the way I see it with like buying stuff, like our merch and stuff. Like, you don't realize what that $5 does. That can be me driving home at 3 a.m. and needing something to eat. People don't realize how far that goes and how much that really helps us, especially on those long drives. 9 hours is not a short time to be in a car.
Yeah, and to that point, I heard Cole Radrick say a few weeks ago at Fallout, somebody bought a couple of shirts, and he's like, "Hey, we'll have money to buy McDonald's on the way home." Now, Cole only has to drive to Bloomington, but still, it's being able to eat when you're hungry versus being able to eat when you get home. So help these guys out. Toss them some cash. Get some merch and buy some stuff. So
most times you buy something from me, you'll end up walking away with something free too.
Yeah,
you end up with a sticker or a wristband or something. It's me getting rid of stuff that I've got, or I just bought it specifically to give away.
So, and I mean, and everybody knows I came from the deathmatch podcast world, and I truly believe there's no nicer guys in the wrestling world than the deathmatch guys. Everybody's super down to earth. If you buy that VIP, you're going to sit here and bullshit with Alex and Raven and Dale and Josh and Akira and Matthew, they're all going to sit around and bullshit with you for 20 minutes. They're going to want to tell stories. They love, like how we were just talking about TOD 10. If you've got some good stories about these TOD shows or NGIs or whatever, they love to sit down and talk about that stuff. And you'll end up making friends out of the wrestlers, which is pretty cool because you're not going to do that at those companies with 3 letters in their name and stuff. Those guys are too busy and they hate the marks. So it's nice that in the indies, guys still remember who pays the bills. So
and I take time to talk to people, and that's what I try to make, is that genuine human connection to people. Because what if I meet someone amazing and that's the only time I ever get to see them again? But I've got this story about where we connected, and that's the stuff I love about this traveling. You know, from just being here in North Carolina and only doing those local shows and then being able to travel, I've met some of the most amazing people in my life out in other states. And that's the blessing to me.
Yeah, there's some really, really cool people. Even just with doing the podcast, I've gotten to meet and talk, and now of the fans of the AWR shows and the wrestlers. You know, I consider a lot of these guys friends, and it's a good time. And I mean, AWR is one thing we're focusing on is continuously pushing the boundaries, lifting the lid off of independent wrestling. And I'm here to tell you that Gary and the other owners, the plan isn't for us to be just another indie. We're going to be the indie. So come on out, be here when we're starting, be here when there's 150 people. Because when we have 3,000 people at the Coliseum or at the State Farm Building at the State Fairgrounds in a couple of years, you're going to want to say you're one of the people that was there when there was 150 people, because those are the cool stories to tell. And in the words of Sam Mitchell, I'm going to leave it on that tonight. This is going to be a show, September to remember, September 26th. This is going to be a show that you're going to tell your grandkids about. Raven Havoc, thank you so much. Guys, tomorrow night, I sit down with Akira, and then I'm taking a break from shows because my wife and kids are going to kill me.
You're going to have fun with Akira.
It's about to get crazy.
You better watch out for Miles.
Give me chills down my spine. A lot of respect held between both these men.